Okay, this is, sorry, my TV is on. Pre-Algebra 1, Lesson 3.1, Decimals and Place Value. So let's look at these base 10 pieces, and I have base 10 pieces over by my desk that you can get out and look at if you want to. In this example, one whole is this, and that would be the one block in my box over there. Here it shows that they shaded 2/10, 2 rows of 10, and that equals 0.2. It's not one whole, it's less than one whole. It is 0.2 and it's 2/10. If we just had one row highlighted, it would be 1/10 or 0.1. And each small square stands for 1/100th, and that would be written 0.01. If we shaded 4 little pieces, that would be 4/100ths. And these are all pieces of 1 unit. On page 119 in your books, there is a chart that says activity, and it has the base 10 up there. And I want you to go get the base 10 blocks and answer questions 1, 2, 3, and 4 on a piece of paper before we go any farther, just to make sure that you understand what we're doing. So the first one, let's check our answers now that you've done that and see if you got the right answers. 1 equals how many tenths? And there's 10 rows of 10, so the answer would be 10 tenths. So see if you got that one right. If you did, put a star beside it. If you didn't, circle it. Number 2 is 1 equals how many hundredths? And it's going to equal 100 hundredths. You might notice a pattern here: 10, tenths, 100, hundredths. 1/10 on number 3 equals how many hundredths? So just remember, every little teeny one is 100th. So 1/10, which is a row of 10, is going to equal 10 hundredths. Okay, number 4 is 2 ones and 5/10 equal, and it wants to know how many tenths does it equal. So 1 1 is going to have 10 tenths. Another one is going to have 10 tenths. And we have 5 here. So the total would be 25 tenths. Now, if you are confused about any of this, you need to tell me now, because you're going to get confused if we go on. So if you need help, you need to tell me. So now, if I asked you to write 20 hundredths using only tenths, well, we know that 20 hundredths, let's just start out, is 20 hundredths. That would also be 2 times 10 hundredths. My stylus is not behaving, and so my writing looks really bad here. 10 hundredths is also 1/10. So we could say 2 times 1/10, and that would be 2 tenths. Okay. So let's try this one. Write 1, 1, 1, and 4 tenths using only tenths. Oh, hang on, my cat's here and she'll start purring. So we'll start out with 1, 1, and 4/10. So we just rewrote what I was asking up here. 1, 1 is 10 tenths, 10 rows of 10. And 4 tenths, and that equals 14 tenths. Okay. Now, if I asked you to do 500 500ths, oh, I didn't spell it right. 500ths equals how many tenths do you think? Well, 500 divided by 10 is going to be 50. So it's 50 tenths. What about 4 ones and 9 tenths? Now remember, 1 is the big block. It's not the teeny block, it's the big block. So how many is 4 ones and 9 tenths? So each one has 10 tenths in it. So if you have 4 ones, it's going to be 4 times 10, which equals 40, plus the 9 tenths, and so your answer would be 49 tenths. A decimal is a number that's written using the base 10 place value system, and each place value is 10 times the place value to the right. So let's look at that and what that means. So here's an example of a number. We have tenths, hundredths, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, and millions. And I have this on the board up there for you to look at. Let's say I had a number that was 3.12. And whenever we see the decimal point, we read that as and. So if I write this, I would say 3 and then I'm on the hundredths here, so I would say and 12 hundredths. Okay. If I write it in decimal form, well, it's just going to look just like that, 3.12. If I would write it in expanded form, I would say I have 3 ones, because this is the ones right here, plus 0.1, which is this right here, that shows 1/10, plus 0.002 is the hundredths. There is a chart on your page 120 which says key concepts and shows the exact same thing that I showed you if you need a reference. So let's say you're at a swim meet. Maybe that's you right there. I don't know. And your time that you get finished and they say your time was 28 6/10. Well, how would you write that as a decimal? Well, the 28 is going to be before the decimal because there's the and. Now after the decimal is going to be 6/10. Well, tenths is the very next spot after the decimal. So it's got to go here, and the number is 6, so that is 6/10. So you would write it 28.6. Let's say you got tired of swimming and you decide that you want to be a race car driver, and you race in the Indianapolis 500, and your best lap was 41.6913. So how would you write that and say that correctly? Think about it for a second. Now, the important thing is when you say a decimal, the very last number is the name you give it. That's the placed value that you're going to say. So in this case, we would say 41, and we have a decimal there, so we will say and. We're just going to write the number normally. We're going to say 6,000. That's that. 900. 900. 13. And now we've said we've used the 6, we've used the 9, and we've said the 13, and we are 1, 2, 3, 4 digits over. That's going to be in the 10,000ths. So the last number is in the 10,000ths spot, and that's the one we say. So again, we would say 41 and 6,913 10,000ths. So we're just naming the place value of the last digit there. So let's see what we would do with this one. So how would you write the number 25 and 700 thousandths as a decimal? So we know that the 25 goes there, the and is the decimal. Now we have to figure out what to do with 700 thousandths. So you can go back to the screen where I had it, or you can look in your book at the top of 120 and see how many decimal places from the decimal point you would be. And it would be, we're going to have tenths, hundredths, thousandths, ten thousandths, hundred thousandths, and millionths. So let's see how many places I have. So tenth would be one, hundredths would be another, thousandths would be another, 10,000ths, I didn't spell that correctly, that should have had a TH in there, would be there. 100,000ths would be there. Again, I didn't spell that correctly. I'm not doing so good here. And the last one is millionths. Now, I went too far here showing you how many, because we don't have millions, so we don't need that one. We're going to stop at the 100,000ths. So let's see how we would fill this in. So we have the 25 and 700,000. So we know the 700,000ths goes there. We don't have anything in between, so we have to put 0 as a placeholder so that we have 5 places to represent 100,000ths. Okay. So how would you write 5.029? So we got to figure out how to pronounce it first. We know that 5 will just be 5. We know the decimal is an and. Now, this is a 0, so we're going to have 29 and the third. So the first decimal one is tenths, the second one is hundredths, and the third one is thousandths. So we have 5 and 29 thousandths spelled correctly. This style, I got to get a new stylus. This is really hard to write with because it's all squishy. Okay, let's try another one. What would 5.068 be? How would you write that? We would say again 5 and we are 3 spaces over, so that's the same thing. That's tenths, hundredths, and thousandths. And so we have 5 and 68 thousandths. Okay. Let's try one more. 76.25. So we can start with, we know that 76 is going to be just what it says. We have a decimal point, so that is and now we have to figure out how to say this. And we have tenths and hundredths, so this is going to be 25 hundredths. Again, this is on the board. It's in your book, and I had this on a screen a little bit earlier, so you can use any of those for your homework. Your assignment, which is on page 121 to 123, exercises 1 through 9, 14 through 23, 27, 32 through 35, 47 through 54, 60 to 65. Your assignment is due today. If you don't finish it, take it home as homework. Make sure you write down the assignment on the first line or two of your notebook paper. And let me know if you have any questions.